Okay,
Brilliant.
hello everyone. It's nice to see so many people here today. Firstly, a quick reminder that we are filming today's session and we'll be sharing it online. So if you don't want to risk appearing, keep your camera off, but otherwise it's lovely to see you. So thank you so much for joining us today. This session has a particular focus on one of the most exciting and important areas of business education, entrepreneurship and innovation. And we're delighted to have so many educators joining us from around the world. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, Gillian Hayter. For those who don't know, Gillian is AB's Chief Examiner and an experienced business educator with a wealth of knowledge in curriculum design, assessment, academic quality. And she has a particular passion for entrepreneurship education. Today, Jill will be walking us through the thinking behind the new ABE Level 3 qualifications and offering practical advice on delivering enterprise topics in the classroom. So without further ado, Jill, over to you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Hello, everyone. Absolutely delighted to see so many of you here today. Great to see so many on camera as well. So a special wave to you all too. Yes, as Linda explained, I'm going to be taking you through elements of the qualifications with a specific focus on the educational process when it comes to entrepreneurship. I'll also be focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation, particularly what it is and what it's not. And that has come from, I think it's now my 12th year with ABE. And I started off actually just as an examiner for entrepreneurship, and I'm now a CE and talking to you all here. So that's a lovely feeling to have. But from my experience and the experiences of my examiners on what we are seeing in the entrepreneurship and innovation papers and how we can make it better by sharing with you some top tips, some do's and don'ts, and just so that we can help our learners be the best they can be, and perhaps help you refocus some areas of your teaching skills. So let's get to it. I'm going to run through the new qualifications very briefly. Do excuse me, I have a terrible summer cold. For the first time we have sunshine in my area. It was 30 degrees yesterday, which is incredibly hot for the United Kingdom, but it has meant that I've got a cold, so I'm so sorry about that. What I'm going to be looking at is a short overview of the qualifications. I know about 10 or 20 of you came to my last webinar, and that was an introduction to the qualifications, and I took you through one example of a unit, and that was marketing. So if you couldn't come then, it's up on the AB portal, and if you want to have a look in more detail at the qualifications and how I applied it to turning the specification into slides, then by all means do go and have a look at that. But apart from supporting you, the ABE family, I also want to be discussing why enterprise education is a great thing. Of course, I would say that, but also how it can help our students develop other skills as well. So even if somebody doesn't want to necessarily start their own business, there are skills within here that will help them in the marketplace, in the workplace itself. So let's have a think about what we call our future of education. Of course, the last 10 years have seen a rapid change in the skills required for our learners, with the onset of technology and of course edutech, educational technology, in the way you are delivering as well. So it's thinking about the future skills that our students need for the workplace, and also the future skills they need to get into higher education. So we went out to the ABE family, got a lot of feedback, paired this with what our organisations such as the World Economic Forum were telling us about the changing needs in education. And what has come up is the new suite of the Level 3 quals. So they're up on the screen now. If you're having any problems seeing anything on the screen, just pop a note in the chat. But you should be able to see 5 qualifications that have been introduced and are now available. The Foundation Diploma in Business, I'll run through them actually. We do have a lot on the entrepreneurship and innovation, but I think it's worthwhile just reminding you of what we have here. The foundation, number 1 of a Foundation Diploma in Business, that's a 40 credit qualification looking at 4 key areas: organisations, management and control, focusing on marketing essentials, and a key area this time, project management. Such a vital skill for our future learners, understanding those skills about how we manage our projects. Interestingly, I'm part of an organisation in the United Kingdom about developing project management skills within all business, because it's been so recognised that they are a key area. And it's great to see that this is one of the fundamentals in our business diploma. So the second one I wanted to introduce is a very exciting one, Diploma in Leadership. And I see that our Chief Examiner in Leadership is here with us today on as well. So that's looking at principles of leadership, developing leadership capability. Very important, because of course, we might not have had experience of leadership. For those that have come through a school process, there might not have been, you know, we sort of say you might be captain of a team or elements of that, but there might not have been any experiences that they could relate to. Therefore, learning about how we develop those skills is absolutely crucial. Thinking about our stakeholders and also how we manage others. So that's the Diploma in Leadership. Then we got on to my favourite element, as always, is entrepreneurship. Only because it's a passion I absolutely share with you all that are here today, but also it was my starting entry into ABE. So we have 40 credits in this unit. As I said, I'm sorry, there's obviously with the changes in the slides, there's a bit of a lack of formatting, so we'll try and sort that out for the recording that you're going to get. We're going to be looking at here principles of entrepreneurship, business finance and financial reporting, operational management and IT within business, and also innovation in business. And I'm going to take you through this in far more detail, particularly the area of innovation, what it is and what it isn't. And an important area here is the third one, operational management. Too often when we see scripts from our learners coming in, you know, and I probably review about, I don't know, 300 every year out of the large number of entrepreneurship scripts that come to ABE, because I sample and check that the marking is fair and equal for everyone. But the common thing that I put in my examiner's report every year is operational management is often forgotten. And we need to be thinking about, when we've got this great business idea, our students love telling us how they're going to sell it, how they're going to market it, but often they forget two key areas, finance and the operations. So as part of this diploma, we're going to be focusing on some of those key areas to help our future entrepreneurs. Just to add as well, the entrepreneurship element comes into the Foundation Diploma in Business Management. That's a 60 credit programme with the units that you can see on the screen. And they all form into the level 3 diploma in business management, which is 120 credits and has all the foundational content that I have been showing you in the past few minutes. If you've got any questions about these units and you're interested in having them at your centre, well, the team at ABE can help you. Please reach out either to them or your regional lead, who can support you in any of these aspects. And of course, you can ask a question today. Now, when we have our students on our programme, they do get membership of the Institute of Leadership. And I think it's worthwhile, given that I'm sharing a lot of sort of top tips with our educators today, it's really worthwhile for you to remind and encourage your students to use the membership of the Institute of Leadership. It's not only going to help those on the leadership pathway, but all the business management elements. There's some really useful areas here. So I would strongly recommend that you have a look and support them accessing it and seeing how it can help them in their developing their other skills that we've been talking about in this and previous webinars. So what do our students want? Well, we know there's two main pathways for our students. That is into workplace, and these skills are directly linked to that. But of course, some want to go on to further education, higher and further education. And these qualifications link directly with the university progression pathway. Sure, you've seen this before, but it's worthwhile reminding about where the diplomas can help our students get in that educational pathway. So one final slide, some of you will have seen this before. I decided to put it into this webinar as well as the one a couple of weeks ago, because I want to marry them with the concept of educational training for entrepreneurship. We know through all the research that's done through organisations such as the Economic Forum, and of course the feedback that you, our educators, and your regional leads and the marketing team have all given us, we know that the top skills that are needed are those listed on the screen today: analytical thinking, creativity, understanding AI and big data, very important, and how it can be used and where not to use it, of course. Leadership and social influence. So that's a very interesting phrase, isn't it? And a new phrase in the terminology of education. But social influence is what our students need. Resilience, their ability to deal with setbacks and pressing forward, and that's very important in the world of entrepreneurship. And then that's moving into lifelong learning, understanding tech, looking at those emotional intelligence aspects, and looking at the environment and our ESG, our environmental, social and governance skills. So that's what they've been built on. Let's look at how we are going to link it to entrepreneurship, because we see that education in entrepreneurship prepares our learners for self-employment. It can also help them make a decision not to go into self-employment too. And actually, that's a positive decision, isn't it? At the outset, having gone through this training, it's not a waste. There are lots of skills that our learners will have, but they might say, actually, I'm not ready, or the business idea I thought I've had through going through this program isn't robust enough. So I need to either delay it, develop it, and perhaps go into the workplace or get further education in that. We focus very much on confidence, adaptability, and business acumen, even at level 3. In fact, we see this through our younger students who are going through the Kids MBA. I have the privilege of sometimes being the judge on that, and that is for our school children to be learning these skills as well. And they are all learning these aspects. They carry through onto the level 3, 4, and 6 skill units that we offer at ABE. And of course, learning these enterprise skills is absolutely vital. We talk about what's the most important skill in an entrepreneur. I actually think it's knowing your money. If we had to choose one, too many entrepreneurs do not focus on the finances, and that's an important element of this. There are lots of other things that we need, but just my personal tip is always keep the finances. Without the finances, you don't have a business. So that's your number one there. So let's have a look at what we've got up for you. And I'm going to take you through one of the units, as I did a couple of weeks ago, but with the focus on entrepreneurship. And then, of course, we're going to be going into some detail about how we teach and where we feel we could improve the outcomes for our learners within entrepreneurship. So as with all qualifications at ABE, there's the concept of knowledge and theory. And this is still very much of importance within entrepreneurship. There are theories out there that we need to understand and apply. If we look at various, I'm thinking of how our products get into market. You know, a very old theory, the theory of diffusion by Ian Rogers, is still plans today. That's for those of you that don't know, don't worry, we're learning. That's the concept about early adopters, late adopters, the majority of adoption. All of those elements helps us see when are we going to get the bulk of our sales. So theory is important. Just because it's entrepreneurship and it's the concept of self-reliance, that background and that understanding is vital. Of course, we look to apply it, but it's important that we analyze and evaluate all of those areas. And that can come in, and I'll give you an example. When we're looking at market research, very important, you need to know what the market is out there, and we can look at market research on customers or consumers. We can look at our competitors. We can see a variety of areas that we would want to research for our product. We then need to analyze it and see, actually, is this going to work for us? Are the competitor barriers so high we just can't jump over them? Or is there an opportunity because we've seen a product that we can innovate and therefore use that innovative product to go into market. So all of this is vital at all levels of our learning. So why are the topics mattering? Well, confidence, understanding that people can do a startup, people can develop the skills. You might have the great idea, but with developing those skills, you can take that product or service into the marketplace and be successful. They have to be real world business skills. These are all about understanding how we work in the market today, linking back to that slide before where there were, I think it was 9 attributes for what the future worker needs. That's what we're looking for. And of course, we're looking to adapt it to the ever-changing economy. It's interesting that, you know, we're looking at some of the areas that are represented today. I can see some of you from Kenya, and looking at the areas, you know, the concept of the Silicon Savannah. It seems a really great phrase, doesn't it? But the development there of new businesses, micro development, incubators for business, really driving forward that economy, which of course supported by a very strong development within money payments, which is your M-Pesa for those of you that are in Kenya. Those examples have developed further and further products. And when we're looking at the entrepreneurship skills, we want to be using the tech that's there to help our learners understand more and get those ideas out into the marketplace. A couple of other areas that sort of stand out really in areas that we have our AB centres, Tattoo City, for those of you that are near Nairobi, and Innovation City in Kigali. 2 really good examples again of the centres of entrepreneurial excellence. Well, even at level 3, we can develop skills for people to be using these to help them push and progress their products. So let's have a think about what we're looking at in our qualifications. We're looking at areas of independence and self-reliance. We're looking at how we are thinking more competitively. And of course, as I've also said, these big hubs that I've mentioned, for example, in Nairobi, job creation, local prosperity, both for individuals and the community in which they are work. So the programme itself gives the pros and cons to help people really understand their realistic view and make that decision. And also if they have the strengths and if they have the temperament that's going to support them as an entrepreneur. If we're looking at these concepts about entrepreneurship and enterprise, that list that I've just gone through are also vital for the workplace. And this is where we think actually by developing entrepreneurial skills, we're also developing skills within the business place. And, you know, so that's why the encouragement of doing more entrepreneurship within our centres should be really encouraged, because particularly on the self-reliance, on the competitive thinking, there are skills that are going to be learnt in this diploma that they can absolutely apply to the workplace. And of course, I'll cover the concept of intrapreneurship later on in this session, which is entrepreneurship within the workplace and developing those areas there. Let's have a think about those skills and characteristics that we are looking at. It's as much about mindset as it is about money. It is true. An entrepreneur has to have a certain mindset about how they're going to go through and achieve their results. We talk about the traits of resilience, confidence, and creativity, but the biggest one is risk-taking, which is why the diploma is very useful in helping map out what are the risks for each of our elements of our products that we're doing. And as I said, highly transferable, even for those who never start a business. That's one of the reasons I am very passionate about all of our students having some element of entrepreneurship training within theirs. So I'm going to now just have a look at some of the elements that we're going to be learning within, and for you teaching within the entrepreneurship units that we have throughout all the new products. And also for those of you that are teaching at level 4, which is understanding entrepreneurship, and of course at level 6 as well, we have innovation modules as well. So this applies to all of them, but I know the focus is on the level 3. but think about how this is going to feed through. And some of those top tips that I'm going to be sharing apply to all the entrepreneurship and innovation units that ABE are offering. So one of the areas that is very prevalent, key in this in our diploma, is writing and pitching a business plan. It's teaching structured thinking and planning, and also a critical analysis of ideas. Now, we know at level 3, we're not normally asking for critical analysis, are we? We say we're looking for describe and explain. But actually, as people find when they are writing and starting to deliver their business plan, they are learning the first real steps of critical analysis. And so it's a very good pathway into higher learning and higher levels as we're starting to think about, what is it? What's the who, what, where, when, why, and how of a business idea and a plan? By getting all our students to both write and pitch their business plan in whatever way, it can be recorded, it can be live, however the centre wants to run it. Of course, communication, and not just public speaking skills, but persuasion skills. They are not there just to tell you about their product or service. They're there to persuade you that this really is the best thing ever. And that's what we're trying to get our learners to do when they're writing and pitching their business plan. And of course, yes, it prepares the learners for funding or investor conversations, but it also improves general confidence and storytelling. How we engage people, how we get them to listen to what we're saying. When we look at one organisation, Airbnb, they have a very famous 12-slide presentation. They used 12 slides to get multiple millions of dollars of investment into their company. That was it. It wasn't 3 hours of pitching a plan. A few slides which summarised exactly what Airbnb was. It said the pain, the solution, the background, and what they wanted, all over a small number of slides. So it's helping our learners not only for funding conversations if they are going to start their own business, but actually those skills, those life skills that we talked about earlier that are so important. Another unit that we're doing is looking at is business finance and reporting. Now, financial literacy, understanding numbers, is the key to business sustainability. And I've already been a little bit controversial by saying I would say this is the key to maintaining a business at all times. You must know your numbers. So that unit, business financing and reporting, is helping our learners manage their risk, understanding their costs and profit and the differences between. But it's not about doing lots of report generations. When we're looking at level 3, it's not about, balance sheets, profit and loss. It is about cash flow, though, and understanding those elements there. And it builds confidence in reading and using the numbers. What does this mean for me? And as we know, common business failures is a lack of cash flow. The number one reason for businesses going out is their ability to get their cash in on their sales. So we focus on that element. Now, it's worthwhile at this moment, I just wanted to mention, I was going to talk about some top tips and things that we see, and certainly I've seen through my 12 years of marking and writing papers and reports on entrepreneurship for ABE. And this is, learners often don't talk about the finance. When they're doing either their executive summary or they're detailing it, they say, yes, I'm going to need, I'll do it in dollars, $20,000 to start up this business. To get a good grade within their assignment, they need to be telling me and any other marker, where's this money coming from? And too often, and I know we've got some of our examiners on today, hello, they're getting ready to examine the latest papers that have been sent in from the May session. So they're relaxing today, watching this, getting ready to mark. But what we see is people saying, our business startup is $20,000. And they don't say where it's coming from. Or they say it's coming from a family member. Actually, to get a passing mark for the finance element, our learners need to be telling us how much it's going to be, and they need to justify it, not necessarily with a full cash flow, but they need to justify why they think it's going to be that. They then need to say exactly where it's coming from. Because let's remember, through the training and through the learning that you're delivering for those centres that are here, you should be helping them learn how to use a business idea and go all the way through the process. So by the time they're ready to do the assignment, they have a business product or service, and they have done market research. They know their competitors, and they understand where the finance is going to come from. Now, it won't necessarily be a real product because it's something that they're going to do. But if they've calculated they need $20,000 for the purpose of your training, teaching, and for the purpose of the assignment, they have to list where this is coming from. So if it's a bank loan, they must be saying, yeah, we're going to get this from the National Bank of Malawi at an interest rate, and you'd give the standard interest rate 4%, paid back over 36 months at a rate of. All of this shows the examiner and the markers that the person that's written this assignment has really thought about all these elements. So one of my takeaways for you today is, if you are teaching this, you must get them to expand more on their finance and not simply say, yes, we'll need 20,000. We need the details at level 3, 4, and of course higher levels as well. So business finance, really important that we do that and we give the detail. I'll also add in here, we often see the phrase, we're going to get the $20,000 from an angel investor. That statement will attract no marks because it doesn't show that the learner has done any investigation as to who that is going to be. So if they know people, if they say, I would actually say that if I was writing it and I was going to use angel investors, I would expand my answer to say, we are seeking investment in this, and this is how we're going to do it. We know that there is a round of startup grants from either this organisation, this foundation, this government, and I would expand it there. So just think about that, really emphasising to your learners about the greater detail. If you've got any questions on this, please put it in the Q&A and I'll happily take them at the end, because there's that and a couple of other top tips that should really help elevate our grades to our learners. I've already mentioned the importance of operations, and we often see, you don't see it, there is often an absence of operational management in our current scripts at level 4 and higher. So there's a greater focus at level 3 to guide our learners through understanding how they deliver, what is a supply chain, what is quality assurance, and thinking about their customer. So that we've really focused on that with a whole unit to help our learners understand such a key area. The unit that we've got in is the role of IT. What we want is for people to use the tech as much as possible, as much as they can afford, and really drive that efficiency, communication and scale to help them and use it. And using the emerging technologies like AM, but also, customer relation management systems, even the simplest one. It doesn't have to be a bought shop model. It can be a simple Excel spreadsheet, but it's about how they use it. Because we know digital fluency is absolutely vital, and understanding, what is the best IT and tech to use in your business is just as important than actually getting it and using it, because you don't want to be investing in stuff that's not going to be serving you. So we have a whole unit on the role of IT in business, which I think is quite an exciting development for us. I promised to talk about innovation, and I've got a few slides on this. As I said, there will definitely be time for questions at the end. So, innovation. It is important that we think about, what can this product, what is it, and can it be changed? Is there something in the market that can be changed to produce a new product or service? Of course, invention is creating a new product. Innovation is making it deliverable to the market itself. Often we see, though, our learners confuse the two key areas, and that's innovation and marketing. So I've got some slides to help you to guide your learners into not falling into that trap. You know, we're not setting questions to create a trap for them, but it's obvious that learners are often confused between what is an innovation and what is a marketing of a product. So we think about that, but we have included as well entrepreneurship. Now that is where we have innovation within an organization, not just starting a new business. Organizations such as WL Gore, who produce Gore-Tex, the waterproof material that we really need in the United Kingdom, and also they make a lot of materials for space tech. A classic example of entrepreneurship where people get 20% of their time every week to think about new ideas, and they have had some absolute product breaking ideas coming out of this 20% thinking time. So the concept of entrepreneurship has been put into the program as well. So let's think about the content that you've got using the information that you've got through the study guide and the specification. And let's look at this slide again. Specification to slide deck for you. Start with the specification, put it into logical sessions, use the study guide, add the application and design for clarity. So in your pack that you've got, I've given you a couple of suggested slides for one of the units. As I said, you'll get these slides within full presentation mode. But think about for every slide using those 5 steps. The application is really important. And one thing we really encourage is that when you're talking about business case studies, use local ones. Don't always go for the big, shiny, often American-based organizations. Let's remember, Google is, Apple is nearly 50 years old. It's 50 years old this year, isn't it? They're great examples to learn about, but perhaps they're not as relevant to our students in our own area. You know, if you've got a high-tech hub that's developing, use examples that it's absolutely not a problem when you're teaching to be using local ones. You know, it applies for you and we absolutely encourage that. And it's worthwhile saying for all of our assignments, we absolutely love it when we see local products and local organizations that have been chosen for the assignment. So we certainly encourage it. You don't always have to go for sort of the big multinational organizations. So just a reminder for those that are new to our webinars, we use our learning objectives and our assessment criteria to plan our sessions. The learning objective, I've got it here on the screen, what the learner should understand or be able to do by the end of their unit or their lesson, and of course their course. The assessment criteria breaks it down into specific outcomes. So it tells us what they need to demonstrate for us when we're marking. So it helps you in both your teaching and the assessment level too. So I picked up Principles of Entrepreneurship and Enterprise, and I've just got a couple of examples of how you could, if you want, you don't have to, but it's just an example of how we're going to write our business plan and our pitch, because there are 2 assessment criteria there that we want to use. So let's have a look. For our actual business plan, we want to look at a number of key elements, don't we? What is the product? Who are our competitors? What's its unique selling point? So I've split that down into 5 sessions. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's 5 weeks. I've just broken it down into 5 sessions as a suggestion for you. As I said, this is available. We can send these out to you. And for each one, I've put in suggestions for the key points for each of these sessions and what we could be doing to help our learners there. So those slide planners are just there to help you. Use them by all means. Look at the session planners that we put in for marketing in the last course, again, to help you create meaningful programs that are relevant for your unit, relevant for your area, and of course relevant for the students' needs in this program. So what are our challenges? I would say I've put 4 down there. Not every learner wants to be an entrepreneur, and they might be going through this program to learn the skills, and that's fine. they still need to think of a business idea, and and that can be a product or a service, that's fine, and they need to use that product throughout their learning so they can learn how to market it, the supply chain and all those elements. And it can be anything. You know, we often see people who are talking about starting up bakeries, juice bars. These do not have to be big and massive. In fact, often, you know, those papers that don't do so well are the ones that have said, we're opening a hotel within 6 months. Well, that's not achievable, is it? You know, and they don't have the detail because that's a really big project, isn't it? A really big enterprise. So get them to think about smaller products and services, because it's more important that they're learning the skills rather than the end result. So they need to have a product or service. They need to balance the theory with the practice, but they need, by the end of the course that you have delivered, to be able to pitch and write a business plan. So that includes the finance element and the operational knowledge. And I've already mentioned lack of operational knowledge is a common error or a common omission in our papers. And of course, for you as educators, teaching finance or innovation, you might not have as much confidence in that as you do other areas. The study guide there should be very helpful for you, and just reassuring that the finance element is really the needs for a level 3. You know, it's not an accounting degree. It's about how we control our cash flow, how we use our sales costings, and what should go into those costings. So have a look at them, and if you've got any concerns, feel free to come back to ABE and we can help you with that. So let's have a look at a key area that is a commonality at higher levels within the ABE courses, and which I do not want you to our learners to make the same mistake at level 3. So I felt it was worthwhile doing 4 or 5 slides on innovation versus marketing, so that from the outset our learners know what the difference is and how they use it within their qualification. So we need to know the difference, because both are ideas and creativity, both aim to create customer value, and both contribute to business success. Absolutely. But they are 2 very different things. Innovation is creating a new idea, a new method. It's not invention, it's creating that extra process. Marketing is about how you sell, promote, price, and place it. So innovation is either those significantly improved products, processes, or services. We often think actually innovation is when the mobile phone came out, we then had the businesses developed on the use of the mobile phone, didn't we? Uber. An Uber taxi would not exist if it wasn't for a smartphone. But we then also have the businesses that came out of the mobile phone, and that is cases, chargers, mobile chargers, handy travel chargers, power banks, things you stick on the back to somehow raise your phone. I'm never sure what they do, but all these innovations came from one product. And actually, it's very good in your learning to take in products and say, right, we've got this product here. I want you to change it or find a new market. That's always that's one that I do in teaching entrepreneurship. So it goes down very well. You take, I've done things like taking in a cat toy and said, how are we going to sell this? We want a whole new market for a cat toy. And the learners, oh my word, they think of all these fabulous ways that they're going to change it, improve it, and find a whole new market for it. So that's the improvement of the product. And we see that as the product, the process, the business model, and the service. And I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. And then marketing, which is effectively how we get the product out. It includes setting the price, and it's where it goes. So I gave that example. Innovation is creating a new cake recipe, marketing is selling it. Very different in what they are. That is at a simple level. As I said, we'll go through some questions that you've got about this. We've got a few more slides to go through, and then I can answer anything on these areas. But certainly understanding the differences between innovation and marketing is absolutely key. So I've got some suggestions on the screen. For those of you that can't see it too much, an innovation would be a sensor, smart sensor that reduces energy use. If you were marketing it at this product, the marketing elements would be advertising about saving money on energy bills. I've got another one there. I've got 4 on the screen, but biodegradable coffee cups. The marketing idea would be loyalty schemes for refills. Excuse me. So one of the key areas here is that we do see people using innovation, which is actually marketing. And that's why I'm sort of sharing the differences here today. A good example would be, I'm going to give you a quick quiz there in a minute. A good example would be when we had, say, people setting up the restaurant or a bakery, and they say an innovation is offering, different flavors, or 2 for the price of 1. That's not innovation, that's marketing. And it's always such a shame that, we have people that are generating great ideas, they're just not generating innovative ideas. So do spend some time ensuring that your students know the difference between that. So I wanted to give a couple of ideas about, I talked about a juice bar. And I thought about a couple of examples, which I wrote down here, and I can send them out if anyone's interested. A juice bar. A juice bar example of marketing is highlighting the health benefits of, pressed juices. They've got all the vitamins and all the pith bits in that are good for your guts. Great. That's marketing. So you'd be saying that. But you'd be describing a process innovation would be something like offering subscription services, co-creation of drinks, using wonky fruit. That's fruit that doesn't look perfect, so that we're reducing food waste. Introducing a juice that changes colour when shaken. That is there. It's fun and it's Instagrammable. That's a word, which then links into their marketing campaign. So that's a really good link of an innovation that goes directly into marketing. So all of those examples can really separate the difference between innovation and marketing. So quick quiz. You can put the answer in the Q&A if you want. You don't have to come on and say it, but I want you to think about, is it innovation or marketing? 1, launching a compostable packaging system, so you can chuck it into your compost heap in your garden and it will benefit the soil. 2, creating an email campaign to promote their eco packaging. 3, inventing a touchless lift or elevator system. And 4, naming your app Easy Lift and designing a logo. So I want you to ask yourself, is that innovation or marketing? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Please put it in the chat if you want to, or the Q&A. Have a go. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. Well, first one is innovation. Number 2 is marketing. Number 3 is an innovation. Number 4 is marketing. You can use that example with your learners as well, by all means. So we're teaching the difference, new value created, the value is communicated. That's really about innovation. I just want to take us through some final areas about top tips and how we can be teaching our students so that they get the most out of the courses and the most out of this. I'd recommend at the start of the course, ask students to design a new product and then innovate it on. I gave you that example of cat toys. I was very surprised how many markets they could put this cat toy into it. Then ask how they would promote it. So we are completely separating out the marketing element of it. And for this, reflect on what comes first and how one depends on the other. So that's one element of how you could teach innovation. And you know what? If you've got better ideas, please share them with us, because we're all educating each other, aren't we? So as we come to the end of this, and we're going to open up the Q&A, I've given you a couple of tips throughout this. One about the detail of finances, and that needs to come into all of our entrepreneurship and innovation units. So if you're looking at the level 4, the 6th element, add it in as well at level 3. Tell us where that money's coming from. Tell us if it's debt financing, what the debt is going to be, what's the repayment terms, and name it. If it's family, put the name down. You can't just say family, they need to be developing it. And operations too, show us that operational chain. So the biggest tip I can start with is that your students must develop a product and a service through their course. Sometimes we're looking at assignments and we're thinking they haven't done this. They haven't thought about, if they can't tell us where the finances are coming from, they haven't studied it and they haven't thought about it. We see this particularly in market research questions. I would do a survey. No, they should have done a survey on the course when they were looking at this. that should have been done. So make sure as part of this, they are developing a product and a service. It can all be the same thing in a class. If people don't have an idea, then you can set them a product, such as opening a bakery. That's absolutely fine. So think about how these products are going to add value. I think my voice is going to last. I want you to put into that the emerging trends of what is happening in your nation. What is the big growth area? You know, we link that to a PESTLE, don't we, where we look at the emerging issues, you know, political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Use your emerging trends in your region to help make it more relevant to them so that they can be super successful. Get your learners' experiences. Some of them may have done the Kids MBA. They may have, you know, been part of a scheme where they sold things to raise money for a minibus or anything like that. Get them in and match that with real-world experiences, definitely including local businesses as much as you can. You know, we've got the study guide and the spec, but make your lessons as interactive as possible, and keep revisiting the key concepts, because as we build, and you know, the great thing about entrepreneurship, we build and build and build, don't we? We have a product, we start thinking about the operations, we might then have to think about the finances, but when we look at marketing, we have to go back to the finances and change it. So it's building and building through every session, and always keep those learning objectives and ACs at the forefront of your session plans. So you'll get the ABE specification, which is available to you all, and we also have the downloadable resources from today that you can get. So that's time for the Q&A. I would love to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing because, as I said, we've had a few difficulties with our screen today.
Yeah, it's not a question. Yeah, not a question. Please take heed of everything Jill is saying, because as a marker, we see some, I think, particularly based on local small businesses. It's a joy to mark, actually. It seems they know what they're talking about, but the finance and the innovation marketing, absolutely fabulous tips. Thanks, Jill.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Any questions?
I think there might be one in the Q&A. Somebody said, can you kindly share a few examples of innovation in business models?
Examples of innovation in business models. Well, we see sort of two categories of business models. We see the concept of business to business, business to consumer, consumer to consumer in things such as eBay, auction web, and elements such as that. But we also look at the use of business models such as bait and hook. That is where you sell a coffee machine, and that Nescafe do very well on this, a coffee machine, and then you buy the pods to go in. So it's so you can look at different ways of maximizing your impact in the market by looking at the different models and saying, actually, could I make this work with a different model way? So if I'm going to be selling coffee, could I expand that further by not just selling bags of coffee, selling coffee pods? So using those to link in with other business models, or using a business model yourself and seeing what is the best way to do this. For some people, actually, their steps into entrepreneurship is through the franchising system, and they might say, actually, I'm not ready to go it alone. I want the support of people behind me, and I want to use that. McDonald's is a franchise, so people have, you know, step in that way. So that's a couple of examples of business models, and thinking about not automatically going with the first one, which is either direct sales or you know, internet sales. Looking at if, you know, that's the sales channel. Looking at the actual model itself of how you're going to get this to market. So I hope that helps, Anoop. So I will just answer Vinayak's question, which will comment about very much on the governance agenda. Do you know what? I think a lot of areas that we are dealing with, innovation is very much, particularly tech innovation, because, you know, what is it doing for us? It is increasing income for our nations. It is looking in areas such as tech, health tech, edutech. Probably I'm thinking of like one more. There's another main tech: health tech, edutech, fintech as well. all areas which are catapulting businesses and regions through those areas. I gave you the example of M-Pesa. M-Pesa, a payment system, was probably one of the biggest accelerators for personal wealth within the region. And, you know, as all governments, we are encouraging it. And I've certainly seen that a lot of areas, Vinayek, are encouraging this. And of course, the focus on women and self-help groups, making self-reliant women to support their family and their country. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And that may well be a specific market for some of you who are from centres today. You might be feeling, actually, this is the element that we want to be focusing on and supporting. Thank you for that. Are there any more questions?
I think that's it, Jill. So I'd like to finish by thanking you so much for your time and persevering with a cold and presenting a fascinating session. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone who's joined us today. I hope you found the webinar as useful and interesting as I did. We're planning more later in the year, so we will keep you posted as new ones come around. And in the meantime, if you do think of any questions that you'd like to ask us, then please just drop it to info@abeuk.com, and we will get back to you on that. So that's lovely. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.